3D printing is dangerous. Whether you want to start printing for Warhammer, Dungeons & Dragons, or even anime figures, this is a pretty serious topic that isn't discussed nearly enough. With the amount of comments I got last video that were interested in 3D printing, I figure now is a good time to talk about it. We'll go through exactly why 3D printing is hazardous and how to mitigate those risks to protect your health. First off, that vat of resin. Liquid, or also referred to as uncured resin, is a toxic substance. Depending on which resin you buy, they can range in terms of health hazards, but these ones on screen are the most common ones to look out for. Some resin companies have the hazards right on the bottle, but for others, you're gonna have to look up the manuals and read them yourself to see all the potential risks. In general, you don't want liquid resin to touch your skin because you can develop either an allergic reaction or chemical burns. If any gets in your eye, it could potentially blind you. And you don't want to breathe the air around liquid resin before and after printing because it off-gases these things called VOCs. VOCs, or volatile organic compounds, is basically this invisible gas that comes off of a bunch of products you have around your house that pollutes the air. Painting your walls, cooking, your new couch you bought, perfumes, they all have it. Honestly, you would be surprised how many things in your house have these. VOCs are another pretty complicated concept that needs more research. There are like 10,000 different types, so this is a massive abbreviation. But the consensus is that you want to circulate the air in your home, bring new air from outside, and limit your exposure to VOCs as much as possible. I guess that old expression of opening your windows for fresh air really is good advice. The VOCs that come from resin can range from giving you headaches and nausea to long-term respiratory problems and increasing cancer risks. Now, I know I just said a lot of scary stuff back to back, even though I have my own 3D printing setup. It's okay if a couple drops fall on your skin or you take your mask off accidentally for a couple minutes. Just wash it off and put the mask back on. It becomes a problem over constant physical exposure and not taking necessary safety precautions. This isn't an easy topic to talk about because you're going to find some people like me who take all the safety measures possible, and then others on the opposite side are going to say,
"Oh, it's not a big deal, you're just being an alarmist. I bathe in the vat of resin every day and I have no problems at all."
I swear some people online would even argue that eating uranium is healthy. Okay, look. People react to resin differently. There has never been a time where people regretted being overly cautious about something that even researchers didn't fully understand. Do I even need to bring up all the times in the past where there was this new miracle product that everyone thought was safe and used in everyday items until people find out years later, wow, that actually gives you super cancer. It's a shame the companies didn't know about it so they could warn people. Oh wait, they did know, but telling people would affect their profit margins. But guys, you're not thinking of the poor shareholders. How can you be so cruel? What I'm trying to get at is that you can't rely on others to give a shit about your health, or just blindly trust that this new technology was approved before enough research was done. You have to take care of yourself and take extra care in dealing with 3D printing. Even when you know about all this, it isn't always easy dealing with resin. There are a lot of ways for 3D prints to go wrong. You are in contact with liquid resin a lot more than you realize when first starting out. Pouring it into the vat, taking minis off the build plate, sifting through the resin vat when a print fails, resin splashes on the printer, accidentally drinking it, resin spills. There are a lot of times you are in contact with this stuff. It's a messy process no matter how careful you are. When you clean these miniatures after printing, you have to use isopropyl alcohol, which if you don't have a good enough mask is another substance that can make you nauseous. An N95 mask isn't enough, at least it wasn't for me. I started getting dizzy after a few minutes and had to step away from it. Another thing to watch out for is UV exposure.
The sun is a deadly laser. Okay.
The UV light emitted when curing the resin both in the 3D printer and curing station can hurt your eyes. They both should have a UV protective cover, so most of it will be contained, but just don't look directly at the light for too long. Uncured resin is also toxic to the environment. After printing, you can't just pour the rest of the uncured resin down the drain or in the garbage. That shit gets in our drinking water. Don't be lazy. I know it's annoying, but it's best to try and cure all of it before disposing of it. When there's enough sunlight, you can place the resin water outside for it to cure from the sun's natural UV light. Uncured resin supports can also be placed in the curing station and thrown away once done, and if you have no other options, you can bottle it up and bring it to your local hazardous waste facility. You will have to look online yourself for one of the ones in your area. Now, lastly, before we get into how to avoid these hazards, I'm going to quickly mention FDM printing. It's generally considered that FDM printing is much safer compared to resin printing, which is probably true, but that's not entirely accurate either. People think that just because it's safer than resin, it makes it fine to print it in your bedroom, which I still wouldn't recommend doing. There are studies that have been done that show VOCs and UFPs are being emitted when using FDM printers. Wait, what are UFPs? UFPs are ultra-fine particles that are less than 100 nanometers in diameter and are also dangerous if you breathe them in and can get stuck in your organs that can lead to a lot of health issues. If VOCs are a gas, then UFPs are basically like these tiny sand grains that get stuck in your organs. Okay, well, which is worse now, FDM or resin? Hey, excellent question. Nobody really knows. FDM emits more UFPs, but resin printers emit more VOCs. Apparently UFPs are worse than VOCs overall. But wait, I thought you just said before resin printers was worse for you. Yeah, I thought so too, but now I don't know. I'm finding conflicting information. Lads, I'm 10 research papers deep. It just keeps getting more and more complicated the further down the iceberg I go. Ugh, I need a break from researching this. I'm gonna play a weeb game for a bit. And yes, I play gotchas, okay? But hear me out, the plot is really good, okay? Anyway, the exacts don't really matter at this point, but if researchers are putting this much effort into looking into this, it's probably a sign that it's dangerous enough for them to take seriously, and so should you. We're gonna move on to how to make it safe and mitigate all these risks as much as possible. Whether you want to listen to this advice is up to you. Some of the things I will recommend are going to have additional costs added, and I know not everyone can afford a setup like this, so make your own judgment calls, but safety really should be your priority. Also, if you've enjoyed the video so far, it would be cool if you consider subscribing. Thank you, and I appreciate everyone's support on my videos. First, you'll want to put the 3D printer in its own dedicated room so it doesn't pollute the same air your family and pets breathe. Either a garage or a shed where it can be isolated from the rest of your house. If you don't have a space like that or live in an apartment, I honestly wouldn't recommend getting a 3D printer. I imagine some of you will probably disagree with me on that, but you can do whatever you want yourself. You don't have to listen to me. I just wouldn't risk it personally after everything we went over. Now, even though we have the 3D printer in its own space, we need a way to move these resin fumes out of your house, otherwise it's just going to stay in the same space and remain harmful. You can buy air purifiers, but they've been shown to not help that much. No, we're going to need something much more in depth. When I was building my setup, I found this awesome website by Asian Joy Co. that created a free step-by-step guide on 3D printing safety and how to build a ventilation system that will keep all the bad resin fumes inside a tent and move those fumes outside. On their website, I followed this guide to the letter and it's been working amazingly for me. The links to these guides will be in the description. Also, a bunch of the safety and ventilation products I mentioned will be listed on their site through their Amazon affiliate links if you are planning to buy some of this stuff. This isn't sponsored or anything, but I figured it would be nice to help them out with a shout out for creating these free guides. Now, I know at first looking at a guide like this can be overwhelming, but it looks more complicated than it actually is. If an idiot like me can put it together, I'm sure most of you can as well. But to make it easier, I'll simplify down what this system actually does so you know what you're getting into if you want to make something like this, and then I'll quickly show my setup. And yes, in order to explain this, I am using MS Paint, and no, I am not an artist. Okay, you have your 3D printer on a table, next to a window. When you print things, it expels this nasty smelling shit into the air. We want to contain that. Boom, the grow tent. You put this around the printer and it keeps the resin fumes in. Next, we get a carbon filter, a duct, an inline fan, and a window adapter. We connect these together. The carbon filter goes inside the grow tent, you snake the duct out the back, connect both sides of the duct to the fan, and connect the window adapter to the window. Once you turn on the fan, what happens is the resin fumes trapped inside the tent go through the carbon filter, which removes the bad smells from the resin so your neighbors don't think you're keeping a dead body in your house. The resin fumes move through the duct, past the fan, and get jettisoned outside. Mostly odorless because of the carbon filter. And voila, it's complete. Okay, well, the outside isn't impressive, it's just a big box, but we'll look at the inside. Now, to the untrained eye, the inside will... Wait, what's that muffled noise? Actually, you're probably going to want to explain to your neighbors that this isn't a meth lab if they see this. The inside does look kind of sus. Look, it works, okay? That's what matters. Keep in mind, I did skip some steps from the guide when explaining this. I just wanted to give you an idea of what to expect, so read the guide yourself if you actually want to build it, but it's not that far off. Also, speaking of drugs, my grow tent came with this guide on how to grow hemp, which is interesting. I don't think it's legal in my state. I don't know, but yeah, don't use this guide for illegal stuff, please. Thank you. So that takes care of our air problem, but you'll need a few more items. You'll want eye protection against resin splashes. Always wear nitrile gloves when handling uncured resin, and get a lot of them. It's a messy process. You'll want nitrile gloves specifically because resin can burn through latex and other materials, so don't chance it. Next, wear clothing that covers your arms, or if you want, get either a lab apron or lab coat for more protection. Use isopropyl alcohol to clean any tools or resin spills. And lastly, you'll want to wear a respirator anytime you're dealing with uncured liquid resin. A lot of 3D printing companies include a mask, but this thing is useless. This is not going to do anything. You need something better. I use a 3M half-face respirator and buy organic vapor filters separately. Make sure to get this filter specifically. Just a forewarning, if you look at some of the equipment we went over, it gets expensive quickly, and this is on top of the printer's cost. It's up to you how much you want to spend on your safety, but I really hope you take this seriously. I know people want to jump right into 3D printing, but please take the time to keep yourself safe. We don't have enough research on these topics, but the evidence we have so far is that it's probably not good for you. It's at best neutral and at worst pretty bad for your health long term. Treat it with respect and caution. I know some of you probably already knew a lot of this, but I think videos about safety like this one are important to discuss, even if it has a lot of similar or repeated information from other YouTube videos. The thing about safety is that it should be repeated. It should be memorized. Why do you think we remember things like stop, drop, and roll for fires and look both ways before crossing a street? It's because those lessons have been ingrained into our heads 1,000 times over, so we can never forget it. Trust me, I know it's annoying when our jobs have those yearly safety courses, but as a society, we know memorization works and is the best way to keep people safe and remember these lessons. On top of that, YouTube kinda buries older videos as time goes on, so hopefully a brand new video like this one can keep the discussion going and bring some relevance back to the topic. If I forgot anything, please drop a comment. It's good to gather all this information in one place, and I want to learn more as well for my own health. Everything I mentioned will have links to resources, research articles, and YouTube videos, and what equipment I use. And subscribe if you like the video. I tried to make this as helpful as possible without getting too bogged down by all the complicated details. Now I'm going to bed. This was harder to make than I thought. Thanks for watching.